I was diagnosed, I never asked myself, why me, or why is this happening? I quickly understood why me. And so, you know, in a country here where speaking about breasts and speaking about cancer are both very taboo subjects, I thought to myself, well, you know what? You're a loudmouth Italian. You stand on a public platform. You're the perfect person to be speaking about this. And so, you know, when I had my operation, I needed, after 6 months, or I think 8 months, I needed to start rehab because they used the muscles on my back to reconstruct my breasts. So I have no lats, in essence. I needed to do rehab, and starting the rehab got me physical. And so I started to exercise, and then we went to Antarctica and we had this mountaineering expedition to do. And so we needed to train for that. And then there was no stopping me, because all of a sudden I thought, yeah, if I can do that, I can do anything I want to. And the next year we climbed Kilimanjaro. The year after that, I started dancing and then started to compete. Even though I've got 2 left feet, I don't care how bad I am. I just love it. I love the lashes and the dresses. And I think we're warriors. Women are warriors. Sometimes we're fierce, sometimes we're gentle, but we are warriors. And sometimes we don't even know that we are warriors. And when something strikes us or strikes those we love, we go to war. It's just what we do. And once I went through what I went through, it was really about, wow, I can do anything I want to. Any one of us can, if we believe it. So it will be so.
So you became free and liberated to be 100% you and whole.
Yes. My motto now is fierce, fearless, and free.
Oh, say that again.
Fierce, fearless, and free.
Yeah, I love what you said about not giving up, but giving in. It's a tweetable moment right there. So for those of us, for those of you online that are watching, if you have any, tweetable moments or takeaways or questions, feel free to ask them, and then I will be picking them up. So surrendering when something traumatic or so dangerous happens to you is what you are saying is supposed to be, rather than going with the fear, but go with the faith of you having all that you need in order for you to live, thrive, and not survive.
Bias is a term that describes a tendency or a preference toward a particular perspective or ideology. It's generally seen to be, one-sided, a one-sided perspective. And, our personal biases cause us to have preconceived opinions about people, about things. And, such preconceived opinions can create all kinds of inaccurate judgments around people. So as we look at what we know as implicit bias or unconscious bias, these are the attitudes we have towards people or stereotypes that we associate with people without our conscious knowledge. We don't know that we're doing that. That's what it is. It means we are being biased, but we are unaware that we are being biased. But those biases are developed within the environment in which we are raised, and the environment in which we travel. And so we gain these biases. We're not aware that we have these biases or how they play out in our day-to-day life as we make decisions. And so what she saw was a big African-American athlete with a leather jacket on, and she had her assumptions. She had her biases and her prejudices, and she didn't know me. So I knew at that time exactly what was happening. So what I decided to do from a strategic perspective was to say, I'm going to sit down in her class. I'm not going to say anything until the first exam. When I take the first exam, I'm going to ace the first exam, and then I'll begin to talk. So I took the first exam in the class. I made a 96, which is an A. And all of a sudden, she began to ask me where I was considering going to college, if I thought about going to her particular college to play American football. And I told her, no, no, I'm not considering it. That was kind of my first kind of brush, if you will, with racism or prejudice or bias, whatever you choose to call it. But it is something that is very prevalent in the culture here.
You have great resolve, and your resolve is to perform no matter what the bias is, no matter how people treat you. And I think that's already one of the key teaching moments for people listening, so that whatever that is within you is not stained by people's words that are around you, particularly negative words. So thank you for sharing that resolve and that drive that is innate in you, which has helped you to perform and outperform even the peers that have expressed those biases towards you. So one of the nuggets I heard is that you treat people like human beings, irrespective of the hue of their colors. I love that word, hue.
Yes. And you know, when you look back at the etymology or the origin of words, and we see the word human, Human.
Yes.
If you go a little bit deeper, it's really UE-MAN, that some have taken and combined it. See, when you take the E away, what happens is you remove what the pigmentation is that the creator gave the original man. Lack of diversity, equity, inclusion throughout the world and throughout organizations truly is the lack of leadership. A lack of leaders being able to look at the puzzle and make all pieces of the puzzle fit, knowing that at the end of the day, it's about performance and result, regardless of the hue of one's skin. So the differentiator is purpose. And so as organizations begin to look at becoming more diverse and inclusive of women, of their ethnicities, we need to do it with purpose in mind, understanding how it helps to improve business results. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to the results that the business drive. You can drive desired result through an inclusive organization or inclusive society. You must be inclusive. We are going in an inclusive direction as a society. You got to sit at the table with everyone, right? You have to be mindful and continuously work on rooting what your biases are, the impact that your biases can have on others.
But you have to be conscious of those, right? So yes. As you come to the table, as you sit at the table, as you have more people representative of the society, you need to be aware of your own personal biases, right?
Yes.
So, and that I imagine comes with self-examination. In coaching, we call it introspection, we
yes.
call it, knowing yourself, etc. So those are the few things I'm picking up. What else do we need to do?
Yeah, so knowledge of self is awesome. You have to have that, and you have to have faith in humanity.
For me, we are one humanity.
Yeah.
And we can start home as Africans, and I work a lot with the African Union and looking at the part about Africa can unite and be stronger, starting with the leadership, when we see beyond our borders.
I love what you said about Ubuntu, and I know that late Nelson Mandela, made it so popular and known outside of the borders of South Africa, where you are now. And one of the slogans of Ubuntu is, "I am because we are." So meaning it's a community, is we all need each other. It's a collaboration, it's a community. So leadership is also that.
For me, leadership is being courageous with the right things that need to be done and modeling them, even at great personal cost. It's about influencing others around you, modeling what is required, even when it hurts. The metaphor I always use when I teach some young people is, imagine you're in the darkest night that you've ever been in, not a single light anywhere. The leader is the one that lights the match, lights the torch, and shows the way, saying, this way, let's go.
So the leader said guidance and direction.
Guidance and direction, and also creates and shares a compelling vision why we need to go in that direction, and sells that to everybody to want to come along of their own volition, without coercion, without being forced to. That is a leader.
Yeah,
not one that forces people to
follow. I heard often influence. So influence is basically sharing that vision and have people follow the vision. That's
yes, and there's more to this, but finally on this, on my own leadership journey and how I lead and coach and teach leaders, is that a leader is the one that knows the way, goes the way, shows the way, and is part of the way of being. That is the way of being that others want or seek or desire. A leader that it doesn't just talk about it. He knows it, he shows it, and he goes it, he does it.
And he is it. The leader is the way.
Yes. And
that reminds me of one of the greatest leaders who said, I am the way.
Yes. Amen to that. One of the objectives or goals of great coaching helps shift, change, or impact mindsets. And one thing I work with, the word that I've written about, is called heart set. So you have your mindset, but your heart set is really what is most profound in impacting others. How you are, where you orient from. A great coach can ask you 1 or 2 or 3 questions and help you have mirrors all around you. Wherever you turn, you see yourself, and you can make powerful shifts in your life to lead to you living and leading the life that you are intended to live.
Growing up, the issue that you faced was you being compared to your elder sister, who was, according to the surrounding, very good at what she did. She aced at school. So the comparison, was it a comparison from the exterior world, or was it a comparison from you, from within you? What was it?
That's a good question, Mira. To be honest, I think for me, I started perceiving it from an external angle, because, I just knew, as I said, it was in the air. And then to be, just to go a bit more deeper, I still remember some small traumatic experience, which I believe I'm healed of. Like, I remember being even compared, like, publicly in my class in front of 50 students by my teacher. I was, made to stand up because I think I failed in a subject, and, I was compared with my sister, like, in front of my classmates. So I had a few of those experiences. Like, by teenage years, I just knew that this injustice I felt at a young age, for no fault of mine, it kind of turned into some kind of unforgiveness born out of rejection. And then I believe it started moving into this mild depression we're talking about, or depression. So I would categorize, like, right now, just looking back, probably I was, somewhere between mild to medium, maybe, after, going to school and understanding and learning on psychology. And and I think it worsened probably towards my college days. And it was a mix of
unforgiveness, low self-esteem, shame, rejection. So I don't think I was never clinically diagnosed with depression per se, but I just knew I was struggling with a lot of symptoms.
Yeah.
I remember honestly, sitting in my psychology classes when I was doing my master's, when, my professor was really having a course on depression or a subject, we're like, oh my gosh, these are the symptoms like I went through, and some of it I still have residual symptoms, and probably we can come to that a little further.
Sure.
And that's the time when, just with knowing the Lord Jesus, through the Christian faith and the spiritual journey, the healing just started off. Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that truly by embracing your faith, you found healing. You found healing in knowing that you are loved and you don't have to compare yourself with anybody else. And that truly gave you that sense of being grounded. Because you and I are having this conversation as coaches, I think it's good that we take the audience together with us and teach them from that. So imagine that, you were speaking to someone who was your age at that time. What would you have said to the younger Jane who was going through all of those emotions beneath the surface? If there's someone going through that right now, what would you say to them now?
Well, I would say, and if you're especially watching that, you have permission, you have permission to heal, to forgive yourself, to forgive the people who have hurt you. If it's a system, it's family, it's teachers, I don't know what that big elephant and that big giant is in your life. But you're looking at a living testimony. So one word I would say is like, you have full permission from God and people. And even if it takes time, I encourage I can gently challenge you to just embrace that process of, even if you can start by just even asking some uncomfortable questions, about those elephants and giants in your life. Yeah. For me personally, even what I'm explaining, for me to go through this process, Mireille, like I had to forgive, to be honest, forgive a lot of people, like from teachers to, maybe somebody in my family, to friends, because even, growing up, when I talked about my own story where I was a depressed kid and I was just going through like a victim blame mindset. I opened my life to even attract further trauma, if I can say. Which was very mysterious, but I found the answer and the key is what we are talking about. Because I held back, I believed I had the right to, keep drinking that poison, thinking that this is how I'm going to bring justice to myself and, the people who hurt me. But, in reality, what was happening was I was dying spiritually and at a soul level. So
that's very profound. I really hope that people will catch what you are saying. And as you're speaking, I'm just trying to think about that young girl that you were, who was innocent, who came to this life with the purity of heart, and going through all of that without support. So I know that you and I and our colleagues, we are there to support adults. And I'm just, thinking now about those beautiful little souls that come to this world that don't really understand what's happening to them during their youth. Are we doing enough for child psychology around the world, whether it's in India or in Africa, where I am right now? Are we doing enough? Are we there as parents, as adults, to help these little souls so that they don't go through the same hurts that we went through? Because, unless we talk about it, unless we go through it, we won't have that healing that we talk about. So it brings me to something I know that you're very passionate about, that is the healed heart. Tell us a little bit more about that, Jane.
Right. Healed heart, when you're making that, or when you're saying those two words, Mireille, the first statement coming to my heart is, which is a part of my coaching vision as well, only a healed heart can be a, incubator or a landing place for God dreams, or even God-sized dream, whatever you want to call it.
So what would you say would be the practical steps for people to have a healed heart, Jane?
Anybody who's watching us today, if I can gently challenge you, see your heart as a stirring pot where something is, different things are being cooked there. But if you can gently stir that pot of your heart and see what is coming into the surface. Is there a bit of, oil or any dirt, anything you want to just scoop off? What would those be? And if you have found that something is coming into the surface, would you allow yourself to even ask those uncomfortable, some challenging questions like, why is it there? What can I do for it to be removed? And how is it standing in my path of moving forward? If you're struggling, or if you're, if you really feel stuck in any area in your life with a particular dream, your professional or personal goal, would you consider even gently asking those questions just to bring in some self-awareness? And if you really find that there are a few things, then would you consider about, who is that? My encouragement is find that coach, find that mentor, find that counselor, find a few people who would believe in yourself and journey with you. And, wait and watch the magic which will evolve out of that process. You're seeing a living testimony of what I'm talking. I'm living my dream to a good extent with God and people.
First step, as you said as well, is to acknowledge your emotions. Acknowledge how you feel, acknowledge the hurt, don't hide it. The second one is to be intentional about seeking for help and also removing negativity and changing negativity. The third step is what I found to be grateful for little things that happen, because when you have gratitude in your heart, it's difficult to have those stones in your heart. So that's step 3. Step 4 is to appreciate and value people around you, even though some of them cause you hurt, but value and appreciate people around you. The next step is to speak positivity into someone's life. When you give, you receive. So when you speak and appreciate and champion someone, you automatically feel somehow in your brain, you feel positive. So it's reflection. What you give is what you get, and what you get is what you give. So that's step number 5. Number 6 is to be determined and disciplined to truly want to be changed and to master your thoughts, and your thought to be positive. Lastly, take time to discern when the trigger attempts to happen or when someone wants to hurt or offend, so you can protect your heart, you can guard your heart that way. So those were my 7 steps of how you can avoid or deal with unresolved issues. My hope is that you will be inspired, you will be revived, rejuvenated, but at the same time, you will get to know that you're not alone. You have people, you have coaches that can help you. And every Sunday, I'm inviting you to join, to subscribe to this channel so you can get to hear more conversations just like these on issues that you don't really get a chance to hear in mainstream media. So it's with that in mind that we started Converse with a Coach.